Kansas. I'm Deb Goodrich.
And I'm Michelle Martin.
And this lovely image behind me is the Flint Hills with the hoar frost. And that was made a couple of weeks ago. We've had some just incredible weather phenomenon lately. And, there are just all kinds of photogenic weather phenomenon in Kansas. But I think that frost, when the fog freezes on the trees and the grass, it just transforms everything. And Heather Klofelter, I'm afraid I might butcher her name, took this one and we used it as a cover photo on Around Kansas. And I like combing the airwaves and coming up with those cover images. And you guys just do some beautiful work. And there's just never any shortage of lovely images to pick from.
And I'm coming to you today from inside the Capitol in Topeka. I have to say, I'm a bit biased. I do think that our Capitol building in Topeka is probably the most stunning in all of the country. And I took this photograph. It was actually during the restoration process, so it wasn't quite as busy. And I laid down on the floor and looked up. I do not recommend that when the legislature's in session because it's politicians, folks. They'll just walk right over you. So, but this is what it looks like to look up inside the Capitol Dome.
And of course, all those lobbyists trying to get to the politician, and some of those are very
Hmm.
good friends of mine. So, not to throw anybody under the bus. But speaking of capitals, we're going back to the vault for one of the earlier capitals of Kansas today. So, Michelle, tell them what we've got. Tell them what's behind door number 3.
Behind door number 3 today, folks, is a look at Constitution Hall in historic Lecompton. And we decided since it is Kansas Day coming up this Saturday, and Kansas will celebrate her 161st birthday, that we would take you back to one of her first capitals and look at Constitution Hall. And because the Bleeding Kansas Speaker Series also begins this weekend in historic Lecompton and Constitution Hall. So when you go, tell our good friend Tim Ruiz that Deb and Michelle sent you.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say I won't be in Kansas for Kansas Day this year. I will actually be in Missouri. And I'm pretty sure they will not celebrate the same way
No.
on the other side of the state line. So I promise to make up for it when I cross back. If they let me back in after that, I promise to make up for it.
So until then, since Deb is on the road and I'm finishing my dissertation push, let's take a look in the vault and look at Constitution Hall.
Our favorite Kansas historian in exile is with us this morning. Michelle Martin is coming to us from Arizona with a story about one of my favorite places in Kansas and hers too. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Deb. From time to time, I want to use my historical adventure segments on this show to introduce our viewers to some of Kansas's incredible historic sites and structures. Today, we're going to take a trip to the community of Lecompton and Constitution Hall.
With the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in May 1854, settlers began streaming into Kansas territory. People from all parts of the northern, eastern, and southern United States made their way to Kansas to settle and vote in territorial elections to decide the fate of the new territory. Would Kansas be a free or slave state? Among the settlers who trekked to Kansas was Samuel Jefferson Jones, a Virginia native and entrepreneur. A pro-slavery advocate, Jones was active in Kansas territorial politics. He was appointed sheriff of Douglas County by Governor Daniel Woodson in 1855. From 1855 to 1861, the community of Lecompton, formerly known as Bald Eagle, served as the territorial capital of Kansas Territory. Located near the Kaw River, the community was an ideal location for settlers given the rich land, access to river transportation, and its status as the territorial capital. In 1856, the enterprising Jones constructed a multi-story wood frame structure in Lecompton and rented its rooms to various organizations. This building would come to be known as Constitution Hall. During the tumultuous debate of Kansas's entry into the Union, Constitution Hall was one of the busiest places in the territory. The first floor of the hall housed the United States Federal Land Office. Settlers eager to stake their claims to land in the territory registered their claims here. The territorial legislature used the second floor of Constitution Hall as its meeting place in 1857. Here, legislators drafted and debated the Lecompton Constitution, which called for Kansas to enter the Union as a slave state. In addition, Constitution Hall's second floor was also home to the district court, which met occasionally to enforce territorial laws and hear cases brought before the bench. When Free State forces, led by Charles Robinson and James Henry Lane, assumed legislative control of the territory in the fall of 1857, Constitution Hall once again played host to the legislature. However, given the building's connection to the pro-slavery faction, the legislature moved its meetings to the Free State stronghold of Lawrence in 1858. With Kansas's entry into the Union in 1861, Constitution Hall took on new tenants and functions in the community. Freemasons, Oddfellows, the Rebecca Lodge, and the Grand Army of the Republic all used Constitution Hall as a meeting place. The building also housed a hotel, dry goods store, undertaker's parlor, telephone office, public polling station, and community assembly hall. Sadly, by the 1970s, the oldest wooden structure in Kansas was showing her age. In 1974, Constitution Hall was designated a national landmark, and through the tireless efforts of community historians like Paul Bonmeyer and legislators Wint Winter and Frank Gaines, Constitution Hall was gifted to the Kansas Historical Society. After extensive restoration, the site opened to the public and is a focal point of community pride. Constitution Hall is a touchstone to the past, where visitors can stand where history was made. The first floor features a federal land office exhibit, and the wooden candle box, stuffed with fraudulent election ballots in favor of the Lecompton Constitution, is on display. The second floor serves as a meeting space where educational programs, like the Bleeding Kansas Lecture Series, are presented for the public. The Lecompton Reenactors, a volunteer living history organization, help bring the men and women of Lecompton's and Constitution Hall's past to life at the site.
Today, Constitution Hall is a state historic site operated by the Kansas Historical Society and site administrator Tim Ruiz. On occasion, Tim can be found shouting defiance from the front porch of Constitution Hall, much like Jim Lane did so many years ago. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to our next historical adventure somewhere around Kansas.
Well, happy Wednesday morning. As always, we appreciate your sharing part of your day with us, and we'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Soy.
200 years of stories take more than a year to share. The Santa Fe Trail Bicentennial continues through 2025. Join us on this epic journey of exploration on America's most historic road. Find our podcast each week on truckersradiousa.com. Find us on Facebook. Find us at santafetrail.org. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
Okay, folks, since we're otherwise occupied, we're pulling another one out of the vault today. And this one is on porcupines. And porcupines have, like possums, they have real mixed fan clubs. You know, you're either a fan of the porcupine or you're not. And if you're a nosy dog, you probably are not a fan of the porcupine. If you're looking to do quill work, you are, you know, very dependent upon the porcupine. So, Michelle, I think this is a pretty cool segment, actually.
I do too, and I grew up loving all animals, so I'm actually I'm a big possum fan because they don't carry rabies and they eat ticks and other things, and they really are so homely that they're cute. And I feel the same way about porcupines. I just think, and I think they're fascinating. I think they're just interesting to look at. I definitely wouldn't want to touch one, but boy, are they fascinating.
They're very, very interesting, as this segment will show you. A couple of weeks ago, a photo of a mountain lion carrying a porcupine that was taken in Kiowa County made the media rounds. And it was interesting because we always get a lot of comments on mountain lions and reported mountain lion sightings. But this got more comments about the porcupine and people who did not realize that the porcupine lived in Kansas. And for a lot of you lucky folks who've never encountered one, that's a pretty good thing. For folks like the farmers and ranchers who contend with porcupines on a fairly regular basis, or the veterinarians like Dr. Jake, who've had countless dogs that they've had to take porcupine quills from, they've got pretty ample proof already that the porcupine is here. This is a really interesting creature, so let's take a look at that little porcupine. For today's wildlife segment, we turn to the annals of Fort Hays State University, which tells us that porcupines are large, slow-moving rodents that can be distinguished from other Kansas mammals by, number 1, a heavy body and relatively small head and ears. Number 2, a thick, muscular tail. Number 3, brownish to black underparts with light yellow guard hairs and yellow barbed spines tipped with black, loosely attached to the skin and concentrated on the rump and tail. Number 4, buffy and spineless underparts. Number 5, broad, orange-ish, maybe kind of red, incisors. And number 6, large feet with naked soles and strong, curved claws. Sexes are alike in color and size, and young ones are darker than adults. I think we would emphasize the yellow barbed spines, for which this rodent is so famous. Porcupines occur throughout Kansas, except perhaps in the southeastern portion of the state. Their sight is poor, but they evade enemies by taking a defensive posture, arching their back to expose their barbed spines and drawing their head partly under their body or forcing it into a protected area against rocks or logs. If a predator encounters a porcupine, the porcupine forcefully slaps its tail against the head of the predator, firmly embedding the spines in the face, lips, and mouth, where they gradually penetrate and may eventually cause the predator's death by starvation. They do not throw the quills. A porcupine's face and belly are the only vulnerable areas of its body, and clever predators can sometimes use this vulnerability to kill a porcupine. This is apparently an art that the mountain lion has perfected. Perhaps we don't see porcupines very often because they are mostly, but not exclusively, nocturnal. It does not hibernate, but in winter, when there is deep snow on the ground, it spends much of its time in the trees. Although porcupines are basically solitary, several sometimes share the same winter den. Winter home range is small, about 5 hectares, but in summer it is larger, up to 14. While in trees, the porcupine may feed on the inner bark. Yes, porcupines do climb trees, so be very, very careful when you're looking up during your walk in the woods.
I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now. Council Grove has a rich history as deep as the prairie tall grass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Hey, we're always encouraging you to get out and see the landscapes, just like the one behind me in Kansas. And one of our favorites for the scenery and the history is Kanopolis Lake. And this tour around Kanopolis Lake, if you haven't been out there, go. If you have, there's always a great time to go back. And Michelle and I both wanted to mention Fort Harker. If you get out there
Yes.
at Kanopolis Lake, you got to go by Fort Harker and give old Sarge a belated birthday wish. He just turned the big 7-0. And again, because I'm on the road, I wasn't there for the party, but they had a huge surprise party for him, and it was pretty awesome. And he just does such a great job out at Fort Harker that, yeah, we love Greg and want to send him our belated birthday wishes.
Definitely. Actually, Fort Harker is one of the first places that I did a Civil War event in Kansas. We were in with the 8th Kansas Infantry, and we were there at Fort Harker, and that's when I was first introduced to Lake, and that surrounding countryside is beautiful. And
Awesome.
definitely, if you go to take a driving tour, if you go to visit the lake, definitely stop at Fort Harker at the Guardhouse Museum. See our good friend, also known as Sarge, and tell him and Michelle sent you.
And if you're in doubt about the scenery, just take a look. TripSavvy.com just ranked the top 15 state parks in the country. And guess what? Kanopolis State Park in Kansas was number 8 on the list. Now, we think we have a lot of state parks that should make that list. In fact, we could near bump off everybody else on it. But there are some pretty incredible state parks alongside us. Number 1 was Custer State Park in South Dakota, which I have to agree is pretty amazing. I've stayed there, visited many times, as I'm sure many of you have. We are so proud that Kanopolis State Park made this list and encourage you to visit when you can. I know we've got a stay-at-home order still in effect right now, but man, as soon as you can hit the road, go see it. In the meantime, let's take a virtual trip to Kanopolis State Park. That's it, folks. We'll see you again next time. And in the meantime, happy birthday, Kansas.
Happy first birthday, Kansas. You look marvelous.
You do. You look very nice. See you next time.
Bye-bye, folks.